Welcome to the KZGN News. Well, tonight's news is almost all about the city and the Ridgecrest Police Department's activities. Today we'll bring you life savings news from the police department, news about a very successful criminal sweep, news about DUI enforcement for this holiday period, news from the city council meeting, today's KZGN Talking Points editorial, weather, sports, and much more.
From the Rademacher Hills to Bee Mountain and the mighty Sierras, Ridgecrest to Inyokern and China Lake, this is your news for the Indian Wells Valley with the KZGN News Crew.
Hello, I'm Tom Wetnick. Thanks for joining us for the news affecting Ridgecrest and the Indian Wells Valley. In big news from Wednesday's City Council meeting, we get this amazing report from Ridgecrest Police Chief Ron Strand. Opening the meeting, Chief Strand made a presentation of Life-Saving Recognition Awards. Awards for life-saving actions were presented to Officers Nathan Lloyd and Officer Matthew Rowland. Here's Chief Strand making the presentations.
Department officers were dispatched to 228 North Fairview Avenue regarding a woman down who was not breathing. Officer Rowland arrived on scene and located a 47-year-old victim lying on the floor. The victim was not breathing and did not have a pulse. Officer Rowland quickly started CPR while EMS was still en route to the residence. The Ridgecrest Fire Department arrived on scene and was preparing their equipment when the victim suddenly gagged and began labored breathing. KCLD took over and the victim was transported to Ridgecrest Hospital where she was stabilized. It was the opinion of the two firefighters that without Officer Rowland's prompt action of CPR, the victim would have probably died on scene. Officer Rowland is to be commended for his calm demeanor, fast response, and valiant efforts during this medical aid call.
Liberty Ambulance is part of this. This is one of the instances where proper training and the way Ridgecrest Police Department responds to all medical aids and these types of things. We have a person who's alive because we have someone there that's quick, properly trained, did proper CPR, and there's no neural deficit thanks to his actions. So he heroic efforts to save someone's life. Correct. Congratulations. This is commendation.
Two people would have died had it not been for their swift life-saving actions. Our sincere thanks goes out to Officers Lloyd and Rowland for their heroic efforts to save lives. With details of a crime sweep here, we get this report from the Ridgecrest Police Department. On December 15th, the Ridgecrest Police Department conducted a compliance check on subjects who are on active parole, probation, or post-release community supervision living within the city of Ridgecrest and surrounding areas including Buttermilk Acres and Inyokern. The primary goal of the compliance check was to deter criminal activity in the Indian Wells Valley. The operation was comprised of approximately 44 law enforcement officers from the following agencies. Led by the Ridgecrest Police Department, Kern County Probation Department, officers from the Arvin, McFarland, Taft, and Bakersfield Police Departments, Kern County Sheriff's Office, State Parole, and the Ridgecrest Police Department's PACT volunteers assisted in the operation, providing logistics support. During the operation, approximately 35 searches and 63 non-target contacts were conducted. They resulted in 25 arrests for various violations, including 2 handguns and 14 grams of cocaine. Those arrested include Joseph Trusty, felony violation of post-release community supervision; Audrey Craney, possession of paraphernalia; Joey Morgan, possession of paraphernalia; Keith Cook, misdemeanor warrant; Megan Umbovita, 3 misdemeanor warrants; Terry Hammonds, resisting a peace officer in violation of mandatory supervision; Brandon McCow, resisting a peace officer in violation of parole; Darrell Studemeyer, felon possession of a firearm and felon possession of ammunition; Cedric Jones, possession of narcotic controlled substance for sales; Nathaniel Tolliver, felon possession of firearm, felon possession of ammunition, and possession of narcotic controlled substance for sales; Andrew Fern, resisting a peace officer and paraphernalia; Romeo Goodigan, resisting a peace officer; James Bradley, felony parole violation. Ms. Merdisi Howard, felony warrant. Leland Wright, unlicensed driver. Renee O'Brien, possession of controlled substance and possession of paraphernalia. John Buckholtz, possession of tear gas under the influence of controlled substance and felony parole violation. Jonathan Perry, possession of nunchucks, possession of controlled substance, possession of paraphernalia, and under the influence of controlled substance. And Joseph Rainwater, possession of controlled substance, felony warrant, and 2 misdemeanor warrants. Lourdes Solis, a misdemeanor warrant. Lisa Tolliver, possession of controlled substance. Francisco Perez, possession of paraphernalia. John Groninger, felony parole violation. Andrew Jackson, possession of controlled substance and possession of paraphernalia. Devin Williams, possession of controlled substance and 3 misdemeanor warrants. That was a lot of people arrested. The Ridgecrest Police Department would like to thank all the agencies for their participation in this operation. And in more news from the Ridgecrest Police Department, they make this announcement. Police aim to save lives with driving sober or get pulled over crackdown. Due to the increase in drunk driving related fatalities around the holidays each year, law enforcement agencies across America will be actively searching for and arresting drunk drivers from December 18th to January 3rd. As part of the National Drive Sober or Get Pulled Over enforcement campaign period, police, sheriffs, and the CHP will be deploying DUI checkpoints and DUI saturation patrols during the upcoming 17-day DUI enforcement campaign throughout the region. Ridgecrest PD will be conducting a DUI checkpoint and saturation patrol on Friday, December 18th. There are over 10,000 reasons to crack down. In 2013, 2,976 people were killed in crashes involving drunk driving nationwide. California was witness to 98 deaths and another 1,800 injured in alcohol-involved collisions in December of 2013. Chief Ron Strand said this, "It's time for all drivers to get the message. Drunk driving is a choice you make, and when you make that choice, people get hurt or die. That's why we're joining with law enforcement nationwide to share the message. Drive sober or get pulled over." The chief said, "The safest way to get home is to drive sober or catch a ride with a sober designated driver." Recent statistics reveal that 30% of drivers in fatal crashes had 1 or more drugs in their systems. Law enforcement emphasizes the preventable nature of drunk driving, reminding everyone that all it takes is a little planning ahead. Designate a sober driver or call a cab. But whatever you do, don't drink and drive. Ridgecrest PD reminds everyone to follow these simple steps to stay safe. Plan a safe way to get home before you attend a party. Designate a sober driver. Take public transportation, a car service, or call a sober friend or family member to get home. If walking while impaired, designate a sober friend to walk you home. Use your community's sober ride program. If you see someone you think is about to drive while impaired, take their keys and help them get home safely. If you're caught drinking and driving, you could face jail time, fines, loss of driver's license, towing fees, and other DUI expenses totaling $10,000 on average. Chief Strand is calling on everyone to be alert and report drunk drivers. Call 911. Remember, driving after drinking should never be an option. Drive sober or get pulled over. Funding for this holiday campaign is provided by a grant from the California Office of Traffic Safety through the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration. Now stay with us for news about the Ridgecrest City Council meeting right after the break. Thanks for staying with us. Well, on Wednesday, the Ridgecrest City Council held their last meeting of the year. They handled these items. City Manager Dennis Beer gave a presentation on developer fees. No changes were made of the fees. Next, they authorized the City Manager to sign the Notice of Completion on the Cycle 5 Highway Safety Improvement Program traffic signal modification at 7 intersection projects. Then they accepted the donation of a single-family empty lot to the city. It is located at 209 South Gold Canyon Street. Under discussion and other action items, they received a presentation and had a discussion of quad state participation. The Quad State Local Governments Authority is a joint exercise of powers authority established between 7 counties and 4 western states. The City of Ridgecrest has been an associate member of Quad State Local Government Authority for several years. At this time, Jim Sanders had been appointed to the committee, but scheduling conflicts have prevented his active participation. Gerald Hillier, Executive Director of Quad State Local Government Authority, presented information and responded to questions. In the end, they decided that Mike Maurer would be the new lead representative, with former Councilman Steve Morgan as his assistant. Next, we got a presentation of the October financial report. It showed that revenue and expenditures are on course as budgeted. The next part of the meeting dealt with new ordinances. First, they gave final approval of an ordinance prohibiting the cultivation of marijuana within the city limits for commercial uses. The city already prohibits the sale of marijuana in the city. Then the most important item on the agenda was this. The city had a discussion of the Kern County Council recommendation to form a joint powers authority for the purpose of establishing the Indian Wells Valley Groundwater Sustainability Agency. The Office of County Counsel for the County of Kern has provided a recommendation that a joint powers authority, or JPA, be used rather than a memorandum of agreement, an MOA, to form the Indian Wells Valley GSA. It will lay out the legal method that the city will legally join in the new agency. After lengthy discussion and public comment in support of the JPA, the Council approved the process and will notify the county they will join the GSA via the use of a JPA. And here's news about a special toy effort by the Salvation Army. They are holding a Fill the Truck with Toys event. The event will be Friday at 151 North Don Street at the Salvation Army headquarters. It will run from noon to 3 p.m. They're asking for help from the community to help fill the truck with toys. Please bring unwrapped toys for kids any age up to age 18. They are providing hot dogs and chips to those that come by as well. So let's get behind the Salvation Army. Get down there with a toy on Friday, noon to 3. Now it's time for the 103rd KZGN News Talking Points editorial. Here's today's topic. Are drunk driving checkpoints a good thing? Well, as we reported earlier in the newscast, the Ridgecrest Police Department will join police departments across the nation over the holiday period to crack down on drivers under the influence of alcohol or drugs. As a matter of fact, they'll be having a DUI and driver's license checkpoint Friday night. There are some people that think these checkpoints are unconstitutional, in spite of the court ruling that they are not. The courts have established specific guidelines on how the checkpoints should be conducted, as well as Caltrans has provided specific signage requirements. As a volunteer with the Ridgecrest Police Department, I have worked these DUI checkpoints. I see the professionalism the officers use in the setting up of the checkpoint and the instructions they receive on how to conduct the checkpoint. I've watched how the officers conduct themselves and how they interact with the people. 99% of the people that are stopped are very respectful and courteous. Oftentimes I hear some humor going back and forth between the officers and the drivers. So the stop is usually very quick and they move on. I've also seen violators pulled off the street. I've seen people that could barely walk that were driving. I've seen an 18-year-old teenager high on heroin being dealt with by the officers. I've seen cars pulled off the road that were being driven by people with no valid driver's license. Even when people get arrested, most of the time it occurs with little controversy or attention. However, if a drunk driver goes off on the officers, the results are he is quickly put under control and arrested. When the violator is calm and respectful, the officers return the same respect. Often, the officers give the violators different alternatives to correct whatever violation has been recognized. But let's get back to the meat of the issue. Are they a good thing? I, for one, think they are. From the statistics, they do work. Do the local ones always catch someone driving drunk or anything like that? No. A checkpoint doesn't have to have a bunch of arrests to be determined a success. Studies have established that the mere public announcement and setup of a checkpoint in itself helps reduce drunk driving. I heard from a friend that when the police sets up a checkpoint, the bars hear about it right away and start warning their customers. So he questioned the effectiveness then. Obviously, he was thinking that all the police wanted to do was catch the drunk driver. I told him that is not the whole reason. It puts people on notice that this conduct will not be tolerated, and as a result, many people patronizing these local bars will actually take action to avoid driving under the influence. That is part of the desired effect of setting up a checkpoint. It's not just about arresting a drunk driver. It's about stopping a drunk driver before he gets behind the wheel. Drunk driving can and does kill innocent people. What about the argument that it wasted city funds? Does it really cost the city anything? No, it doesn't. Most of the equipment used for a checkpoint is already owned by the police, or a special equipment has been purchased by the city applying for and getting grant money from various sources to pay for the equipment. Even the cost of the labor is paid for by a grant from the Office of Traffic Safety. And think about this. The officers are so dedicated to the effectiveness of these checkpoints, they'll be standing out there in the very cold temperatures Friday night, while you're sitting comfortably in your nice warm car. The stop is usually very uneventful, so if you get stopped, be happy. They are trying to make the streets safer for all of us to drive on. And, oh, by the way, an offer of Merry Christmas is nice too. The simple message is, don't drink and drive, and don't overuse drugs while driving. And don't mix drugs with alcohol either. All those situations can be deadly. I don't know about you, but I don't know how I would deal with killing another person or a child because I made a bad decision to drive drunk. That is not what I would want to deal with. And it's so easy to avoid. Just make the responsible decision. Don't drink and drive. In conclusion, DO checkpoints are legal and they are effective. I don't know about you, but I like to have safe streets to drive on. These checkpoints help make the streets safer for all of us. Have a safe holiday period. Don't drink and drive. I'm Tom Windick, and that's what I think. I'd like to know what you think. If you have any comments about this editorial or would like to discuss or recommend a topic, I'd like to hear from you. Please email them to info@kzgn.net. Thanks for staying with us. And now here's Lane with the weather.
Thank you, Tom. From the National Weather Service, the next in a series of storms will impact parts of the northwestern U.S. on Thursday with heavy rainfall, significant mountain snow, strong winds, and flash flooding. Meanwhile, rain and thunderstorms are possible across the East Coast with a marginal risk of severe thunderstorms from the central Gulf Coast to the mid-Atlantic. Temperatures across the nation. Carolinas at 73, Georgia at 64, Arkansas at 50, northern Texas at 48, Arizona at 50, and LA at 60. And for us locally, tonight mostly clear with a low around 31, northeast wind 5 miles per hour. Friday sunny with a high near 57, southwest wind 5 miles per hour. Friday night mostly clear with a low around 33, north-northwest wind 5 miles per hour. Saturday, a 10% chance of rain, mostly sunny with a high near 59, north wind 5 miles per hour. Saturday night, a 20% chance of rain, partly cloudy with a low around 33, west wind 10 to 15 miles per hour with gusts as high as 25. And Sunday, mostly sunny with a high near 57, west-northwest wind 5 miles per hour. And that is your forecast for the IWV. Now back to Tom.
So that's the news for today. All at KZGN-TV know you have a choice in what you watch for your news. We all thank you for choosing KZGN-TV, Ridgecrest's only locally owned community TV station. Stay tuned now for Ridgecrest Talk.